Hi amplifiers and welcome back to Amplify. In this week's episode we're gonna talk about music production, music mixing and object writing, and our guest is the very talented modern time music maker Billy Crabbe.
Today.
Not too bad. How you doing?
I'm doing great. We have a wonderful weather here in Belgium. So
You're in Belgium, right?
yeah, I am. I
Oh,
am.
no.
You are in Greece right now.
I am in Greece right now. It's not as sunny as some people might might
Yeah.
expect at this point, but no, it's still okay. It's not still winter weather.
And why are you there? Why did you move there or how?
So no, I'm half half. So I'm half English, half Greek.
Oh yeah,
And
because your real name is not Billy. Your real name
my
is
real name is actually Vasilis. For 2000, well, in 2014 up until 2019, I was living in London. And in 2000, I don't know if it's the same in Ukraine, but here in Greece, if you're a Greek national, if you got the Greek nationality, you have to do your military service.
All right. Yeah.
And
That's
I've been avoiding that. You're supposed to do it after you're 18. I mean, it's one of those things where I don't think anybody wants to do it, but because of the nationality, you have to do it. So I've been avoiding it for these years. I mean, I left Greece when I was 18. I moved to America to study. So
okay.
I had studies going on. Then I moved back to Europe, and I decided I'm going to go to London. And then all those years I avoided it. And then it came a point where you get a temporary exemption
Yeah.
from the military because of studies. You get about 10 years
Yeah.
leave, like temporary leave, and it ended in December of 2018. So I had to make a choice of whether I go or not go. And without boring you with the details, there's a lot that goes into not doing it. You get a lot of
Okay.
fines and money and all that
Yeah.
stuff. So I thought better just go do it. It's only 8 months now. Well, it's changing, but when I entered, it was 8 months for anybody who was part of a 5-member family.
So
So
you've
yeah,
done it already, or
I've
you
done
are
it.
going?
I entered May of 2019. So I moved back to Greece. I left London basically in April of 2019. My draft date was May 7th, a day after my birthday.
Oh, okay.
And then I did 8 months straight, and I was released in January of 2020.
I mean, it sounds so like released, like it's from prison, because I would say like discharged or something like that.
Well, for me, it was released.
Released, yeah.
I got my freedom back because
So,
I think if you can avoid it, I mean, it depends on what if it has stuff to offer you, like work experience, or if you can benefit something out of it, then do it
yeah.
so you don't have. But like for me, it was just 8 months of not doing music. That's how
Yeah.
I viewed it. So, but yeah, I'm done now. I'm out, and the idea was like, I was released in January. I was gonna stay in Greece till May, till I can get myself together and ready to move back to
Yeah.
London. And then COVID happened, and there wasn't much reason for me to leave Greece and move to London when there's not much work going on in music at the moment.
How long has it been that you've been doing music?
I think music has always been a part, if I think like with most people, you grow up with your parents' music, then you start to discover. So I started piano lessons from a young age. I think I was maybe 5 when I did my first lessons, and carried on until I was 7. But it just wasn't very didn't interest me that much. Like I always saw like guitarists play, and I was like, yeah, that's
Ah,
what I want to be doing. That's why I want to be playing guitar. So I think from 8, so like 5 till 7 years old, I was taking piano lessons. Then I took a break, and I think around 9 years old, I picked up guitar. So I started taking classical guitar lessons, and then it's been an ongoing process of learning.
When I was researching information about you, I found mostly that you're a mixing engineer.
Yeah, so that's kind of a recent thing. I've always done mixing, so it kind of started off as a necessity. So when
Okay.
I left, so I studied at Berkeley in Boston,
Mm-hmm.
and did 4 years
You
there.
actually flew over there to study, right?
Yeah, I went.
Okay.
So I went at the age of 18. I went to Boston. did the performance degree at Berkeley, so it was mostly practical training on the guitar. So you had more one-on-one guitar lessons. But I was always interested in the technology side of things, so like recording and all that stuff, and how you could produce music. So I would always, all these students that were taking the music production engineering course, they had to do these projects where they had to record bands and musicians and all that stuff. So I always made sure to like make friends with people who were doing that degree, so I could go into the studio with them and like look into how they produce music, how they mix. And when I left Berkeley, I got into songwriting and writing songs. I was like with a band, moved down to Nashville, and kind of invested more time into learning how to write songs and how to arrange them. And then when I moved to London, I started writing songs for myself, and I had people who were gonna mix my first single, but they eventually got, I don't remember what it was. I think they either got like a big project that and they didn't have time for, for my project, or it was the case where they wanted to do songwriting. I forget what it was, but they ended up not being able to mix my song. So I thought, well, I'm the only one who's going to, give the attention and care for my music. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to spend a couple of months where I'm just going to be on YouTube all day. I bought a bunch of books about mixing, recording, acoustics, all that stuff. I think it's when you have to do it out of necessity. Like I didn't have a lot of money to pay, especially when I first left college. I was like, I don't have thousands of pounds or euros to spend on a mix engineer. I didn't really know how much it was going to cost me. So I thought, well, it's going to be a good skill set to have. It's something that interests me. And I thought, and the more I got into it, the more obsessed I got about it. So the more, like I was taking notes and like download, you can find all these like free stems online where you can practice your mixing. And so yeah, that's kind of how I got into the mixing side of things. And I had some songs. I had like this, my first song, luckily was featured on BBC introducing, and ITV, which is a UK television channel. I thought to myself, I must be doing something right, so maybe I can start doing it for other people as well. And that's kind of how I got into the whole mixing side of things.
Which process of of song creation do you prefer? Do you like the production or the mixing or the mastering? Do you also do your mastering?
I do, yeah, I do. I do a bit of mastering as well. I would say like I prefer the mixing side of things because for me it's a bit more creative. Um, you can have a little bit more of a creative input in the overall music, whereas the mastering is kind of like ironing out the details from the mixing process. It's difficult to say because I think each process of making music has its own unique quality. Like I really like the social aspect of it, of writing music. Like if you have a band, or if you're a solo artist and you have a band that works with you, I think it's really fun to kind of get into a room and work things out. Like for a lot of the songs on my EP, which I released in 2018, that's kind of how I'd written the songs. I had the chord progressions, but kind of the progression, the arrangement of the songs came out of sitting in a room with a drummer and a bass player, and kind of bouncing ideas off each other. And I think that's a very fun part of like creating music. But then also the mixing side also has a lot of good things, like you start experimenting with reverbs, effects, and all that stuff. And it's difficult to narrow it down to just one specific side of the process.
Do you think one person could do everything in the best quality? I mean, production, music, production, mixing, and mastering, or do we need to go to three different people, or at least two different people? I'm talking from the perspective that I just play an instrument, but I like music, kind of electronic music production, and I'm not capable of doing that. So when I create my song, I sit down at the piano, I play the song, I record it in the DAW, and then I send it out to the music producer. And what I experienced in the past, that the mixing part was always the most difficult one. there were so many revisions. I thought, okay, maybe one person cannot do everything like in the best quality. What do you think about that?
That's a big question, but it's a good one as well, because like I believe that as musicians nowadays, we're not just creatives. We're not just there to like write the music and whatever happens with it happens. I think if you want to take music seriously and you want to write music and be, expand your creativity, you need to be able to understand different aspects of the process. Like as a musician myself, I write, I produce, I mix, I master. I mean, I feel that I do a good job, and I've gotten like comments saying that, it sounds good, it sounds professional. Um, but I think it's also the case that if you're not willing to put the time to learn, like learning a new skill takes time, takes practice. And if it's not something that deeply interests you, then you're obviously going to find somebody else. But then when
Hmm.
you're working with that some other person, like a mix engineer or a mastering engineer or a producer, even, you want to be able to communicate your ideas clearly.
That's the point. Yeah.
So like even if you're not interested in the mixing process or mastering process or even just producing complete songs, and you just care about writing lyrics and writing, like composing on the piano, I think it's important to kind of read bits and bobs of the each process, just so you know how to communicate your ideas and what you're looking for. Like with a mix engineer, for example, if if you want a song to sound, if something's not sounding bright enough, it's good to, just good knowledge to understand which frequencies in the EQ spectrum enhance the, the brightness, or make it dull, or remove body, or adds body. It's not as if you're going to sit down and do mixing yourself, but
Hmm.
at least you know how to communicate. But the more the more I produce music myself, I realize it's a lot better to have a team. It's a lot better to have people to
Yeah.
communicate with, because you get different perspectives, and I think that's how you also improve. Just seeing the performance side. Like the more you play with a band, the better your feel gets, the better your performance gets. I think it's the same with writing and producing music. The more interactions you have with other musicians,
Hmm.
the more knowledge you can obtain from them, and the better you will get at producing and writing music.
I remember sending out a mix from one producer to mixing engineer, and the feedback I received, it was like frequencies, this, that, that, and the drums need to be changed, etc. And I was like, okay, I
Yeah.
better start knowing this guy a bit more, because he probably knows what he's talking about. So that's why I thought, okay, maybe it's better to have one guy for a job of music production and then another one for mixing, and make them all also work together by building a team around you.
And I think that's how it works in general in the music industry. I think like a lot of people have their producers, a lot of artists have producers that help the artists develop the songs and make sure that the vocals are recorded properly, the instruments are recorded properly, and then that is taken off and given to somebody else to mix, and then somebody else masters it. I think the idea is that you get a fresh pair of ears each time, because I'm sure like you'll know as well, like when you spend months and months on the same track, and you're
Yeah.
tweaking and you're like fixing, and then you're second guess, oh, do I need to add an extra layer of bass, or do I need to remove it can get very frustrating. And even for me, like I've said it in like in videos, and other people that have asked me about music production, like my EP took, like, I mean, it was only 4 songs, but it took me 2 years to finish. And it was because I was doing everything myself, and I was, especially with the performance side of, with like my vote, I don't consider myself to be a great singer. So like I was always thinking, like, I could do that vocal better, I can do that so I spent like maybe 2 or 3 months where I would record vocals, listen back to them, delete them all,
Delete.
read.
Yeah, I
And
do that.
it's just, you need that extra person to
Yeah.
be there and say, you know what, this is good, move on.
I can work with it. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And what about your AP? There is a song which is called "Don't You Worry."
Don't say you're sorry. Don't you worry. Don't you worry. We've got time to forgive and forget. So don't worry. Don't you worry. Don't you.
Tell me a bit more about this song, please.
So I mean that's I wrote that song a long time ago. I think it was maybe when I just initially moved to London, and it's about I mean I guess it songs are up for interpretation. Each person can connect the song in a different way, but for me it was the inspiration behind the song, the lyrics was stepping away from a relationship, whether it's a love relationship or a friendship relationship where things are not good and the other person is going through things and they can't really open themselves up to actually having a deep connection with you. And yeah, that's kind of how I kind of viewed it, and kind of like not person for not being able to give you what you're giving them, if that makes sense. So
Well, it's
that's
beautiful.
kind of like, thank you.
That's beautiful. I already added it on my Amplify.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Right. Very nice. And what about 2021? What?
2021, yeah.
Yeah.
I think like I mean, obviously we're going through a pandemic. Things are very difficult with the music industry. I mean, people are not recording music as much. There's not many jobs for mixing and stuff. So I think for 2021, it's just kind of, even from now, starting to try and adapt into a new, what the new music industry is going to look like. Like we've got streaming and we've got online performances. So I think I'm slowly making my way into that. Like I've been exploring the site Twitch, which I knew it was about for gaming, but apparently you can do a lot of musicians are on there now and kind of building an audience through chatting with people who are willing to follow them and like their music. So I think for 2021 it's kind of that, like continue building like a following, creating music, and looking for projects to get involved in. I think that's the only thing. Again, it's very difficult to predict what 2021 is going to be like, because we thought by the end of this year things would be a lot better, but it doesn't seem to be that way. But yeah, I think it's just taking it step by step and then hope for the best and do things that kind of adapt into 2020.
I think we should do something that doesn't really depend on the pandemic and things. So
Exactly.
that's what I was about to ask, if you are open for collaborations with other musicians.
Yeah, I mean, I'm open for a lot of things. I think at the moment, what I'm focusing on a lot is kind of doing cover videos of songs and releasing them on YouTube, while also writing new material. I'm collaborating with a guy in London who goes by the name of Tusk, and he's an amazing. He does he does a bunch of stuff. He does electronic music and he's releasing music as well, and I'm doing my own music as well. So it's just doing stuff where there's a continuous motion of creating. I think it's very easy, like with the pandemic. To be honest, I go through days where I'm like, what's the point? And then I go through days where I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna, I think it's not. We need to push ourselves into kind of creating a forward motion where we're not stopping. It's not the end of the world. People are still looking for entertainment. They're still looking for songs to connect to. So I think that's the overall goal for 2021.
I put myself on the wave of thinking like, I can do this because actually I have nowhere else to be, so I can just do this at home and start recording, start writing and things
That's
like
the great thing with nowadays, that we've got access to gear and the equipment. The internet is amazing for like stuff like this, where we can get to chat about music and share ideas. It's there's even though we've got all this negativity going on in the world, there's a lot of positive things to kind of come out of music. So it's good that you're keeping.
that. What advice you have for somebody who is now thinking about learning music production, mixing, doesn't have good gear, doesn't know what kind of a gear to get, and limited resources in terms of money, in terms of like knowledge.
So my advice is that we're living in the age of information. YouTube is like a university of its own. Like you can find everything on YouTube. I mean, obviously you can find good advice and bad advice. That's up to the person to discover what is good and what is bad. But like for me, a lot of the mixing knowledge that I obtained, and especially with mastering, which mastering for me was a very vague concept. I really didn't understand what mastering was. I understood mixing, but mastering was kind of like one of those things where I don't understand. But there's so many videos and materials and books. I mean, okay, books, if you don't want to spend money, if you don't have the money to spend on books, then YouTube is fine. But I would say for anybody interested in mixing or thinks that they're interested in mixing is definitely go down the YouTube route. I think a lot of people these days do that, even with guitar, even with piano, when they want to learn a new skill set. I think YouTube is kind of where they all start. I would say, like obviously you do need some basic gear. Like in the beginning, I don't think you need to spend thousands and thousands of euros on like high-end equipment. I think you can always start out with something basic and um, something that will get you started at least. So, I mean, yeah, exploring kind of like using YouTube to kind of explore what is needed for the gear and what is needed to do mixing and start learning the bass. I think it's like similar to learning a language. I think you need to learn the lingo of music production and mixing. So if somebody tells you like, oh, you need to throw in a EQ on that track, you understand what EQ means, or you understand what compression means. If you wanted to learn more about EQ, you could either narrow it down to something specific, like how do I EQ vocals? And you will find thousands of videos where some people will just go over it very briefly and say like do this, that, and the other. That's fine if you just learn a specific kind of routine of how to cut and boost frequencies. But there's other people out there that will go through each frequency and explain, okay, well, if you boost 250 hertz, this adds and removes body from your vocals and stuff like that. So I would say, yeah, just if you're interested in learning about mixing and mastering, start from YouTube. And I think the more you look into it, you'll find people also suggesting books, other channels, and it's a domino effect. You start from one thing and you go down the rabbit hole and you discover.
It's a rabbit hole.
Yeah, I mean, that's what happens in YouTube, doesn't it? Like you start with one
indeed.
video and you end up 3 hours later still watching.
Yeah. 3 hours later, you're watching recipes.
Yeah. Or like you're on a different topic. Yeah.
And for instance, you mastered the mixing yourself because you self-studied that, right? Would you be eager to provide like a short coaching to somebody who is listening or watching this video?
So yeah, definitely.
Can we recommend them? Okay, if you want to learn a bit more about mixing, they can go to you.
For sure. So I'm in the process, like speaking about like making adjustments for 2021. What I'm in the process of doing is actually creating. I am either going to create mini lessons on YouTube where I go over specific things about mixing, or well, the other thing is I'm also going to start offering kind of free counseling. Well, counseling is not the correct word, but kind of assistance, let's say. Like we'll book 30-minute Zoom calls where people can share their screen and go through their mixes, and we can discuss, kind of like make suggestions and discuss how to like make something sound better, maybe suggest alternative ways that will be easier to mix, for example, guitars or bass or whatever they're working on. So definitely, yeah, like if that's something definitely I want to start doing in the future, where I'm kind of helping other people, providing resources, and it's something that I'm working on adding to the website as well, because I've got all the services and what I do on the website, but I also want to start adding some resources of stuff that books that I read, videos that I watched, and that will be definitely helpful for other people who are interested into getting into mixing.
Yeah, for instance, when I bought my gear, what I bought, a microphone, a vocal shield, and some monitors, I was researching on the internet, but there is so much information on the internet, and sometimes I don't know what I need and what I don't. So for me, it was easier to go to the music producers I worked with and just, okay, ask them, what do you think about this? Do you recommend something else? Like, and how do I connect this cable to,
I
something else?
mean that's a great way to do it. Yeah, I
Like,
mean that's a great way to do it, and I have a lot of people. I mean I do that with for myself. Like I'll if I don't know how to do something, I will ask
yeah.
somebody else and see if they have any suggestions. I mean that's one way of going about it, like asking other people. The other way is especially with buying gear and starting out is tell yourself, okay, how much money am I going to spend?
Yeah.
How much do I want to invest starting out? And once you have your budget, just look up reviews and see like what gear I mean, obviously if you don't know what gear to buy, ask somebody, or there's tons of information if you Google it what you need. But then based on how much you want to spend, I would look into the gear that costs that amount of money, and go about it that way.
In terms of DAW, what are you using?
So I went through a bunch of different ones. I started off in Sonar, which is along the lines of Cubase. It's I think that it's Steinberg. I think it's the same company that makes Cubase. So I started off in that, and then when I got into college, we were given Logic, and I think at the time it was Logic Pro. I don't think even it was called Logic Pro. I think it was Logic 8 or something like that. And I learned how to use that. In college, we also took some introductory music production courses. So before you choose your major, they kind of give you a taste of each major, and then you can decide what you want to do. So we did introduction to music production, and we learned Logic, Reason, and Digital Performer, which is used a lot in film scoring. And then, so I stuck with Logic for a long time, and then for a very short time, I moved to Pro Tools. But for me, it was the cost of Pro Tools, and every time you wanted to it was just too much money. And Apple does this amazing thing where you buy the software once, and all the upgrades are free.
So
So
you are using the Mac Pro.
So yeah, I'm with a MacBook Pro. I mean, it's a mid 2015. It's still working fine. I mean, it gets, I haven't upgraded the operating system, so I'm still on Mojave. I'm not on the latest one, which is Catalina, but it works fine. And yeah, I've stuck with Logic Pro because obviously I've spent so many years using it, and I know it by heart, and I know all the shortcuts. It's just easier I don't have to like look up how to do something. I just know everything. And I think that's the important part. It doesn't really matter what DAW you're using, as long as you know how to use it to its full extent, where it's not getting in the way of your creativity. Because if you're trying to do something and then you have to take a break and look up, okay, how do I automate something? Then it's cutting into your creativity, and you kind of lose that momentum. Whereas if you spend time learning a DAW, no matter what it is, if you can create music, then that's the important side. I know people who produce music on Audacity. I mean, and that's a very basic DAW, but they're able to do what they want to do, and they're happy. I think that's the important side of things. Yeah. Reaper, I think, is a free. If I remember correctly, Reaper is a free DAW, and it's really good. Like if you want to look into that, and I know a lot of people, even like a lot of YouTubers use Reaper, and it has some amazing tools for music production. So it's definitely worth checking out.
Let's talk about another skill of yours and something that I know you from, because I know you from Facebook, because I joined your group of object writing.
Yeah.
And where did this idea of creating the group came from?
So, I mean, I created the group after I left the military. So I think it was I think maybe March or February. I forget when I actually opened it up. And the idea was that I was doing object writing every day, and for me, it was I found it very challenging to kind of find stuff to write about the next day. So I would like prepare I would make a list actually every week of 7 object writing topics, and then somehow I managed to like pre have them emailed to myself every morning. So I would
Mm-hmm.
like kind of forget what I had arranged to
Like a
write about.
notification or
So
something.
then
Yeah.
I would wake up at 6 a.m., make a coffee, and then start writing. And I thought like, okay, well, I'm doing this anyway. I'm preparing these like prompts, let's say, for myself. Maybe there's people out there that, and when you do things in a group, it sometimes builds momentum. It keeps you more invested in
Yeah,
doing it.
absolutely,
So
absolutely.
I thought, well, I mean, I'm looking for like-minded people. I'd love to like create a community of writing. I really like songwriting. I also wanted to get into co-writes, like writing lyrics with other people. So I thought, well, the best way, create a group on Facebook and just provide prompts for people every day. And it kind of went through a phase. It started off very strong. Like there were a few people that joined that found the group, and they were writing it. We started off calling it a daily object writing challenge. So I had like prompts being posted every day, and people were writing. And initially, I wanted people to post them. Like I was kind of saying, like, if you're going to join the group, post your, object writing. But it slowly, I think people kind of got caught up with the coronavirus situation, and a lot of people. I know like some people on the group have families, they have kids, so it was very difficult for them to kind of invest extra time into like writing on paper, then copying it on,
Yeah.
like in a document and pasting it into the group. So it kind of went from a daily object writing to a weekly object writing, and then we slowly kind of slowed down and we kind of took a break. And I thought I would like bring it back now. We're in November where we're doing that everyday object writing, and it's kind of there's no pressure. Like people don't have to post if they don't want to. It's up to you. Like you make the commitment yourself. All I'm doing in the group is providing you with a prompt, so you don't have to think about it the next morning or something like that.
It's a lovely idea because when every morning I intentionally just try to wake up a bit earlier because I know that, okay, I need those 10-15 minutes to sit
Mhm.
down, to open my PC and write a bit. And it's cool because you give the topics already, you give the prompts. And what I noticed about myself is like I could uncover some old memories. Like
Mhm.
I never knew that I still had them. It's like you're digging up your archives. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
And with the time limit, it's I mean, have you read the book about object writing by
Uh,
Pat Patterson? Exactly, yeah.
so
So writing better lyrics. So I did that. I took a songwriting course with Scarlett Keys, who's mentioned in the book. And that's the book we kind of went over in the lesson. And we talked about object writing, and we do these exercises in class. And it was for me it was very interesting because I'd never written songs before. Like I was interested in songwriting, and when I entered Berkeley, I don't know if you are into John Mayer, but in 2009, I had I think Continuum by John Mayer, with all the big hits that he had, like Gravity and Waiting for the World to Change. Like it kind of became very huge amongst the guitar community. Like every single guitarist at Berkeley who wanted to be a songwriter wanted to sound like John Mayer.
okay.
So to be honest, I was one of those guitar players as well. Like I really like that album. The songwriting is amazing. The guitar playing is amazing. And I thought like, okay, well, maybe I should try, getting into songwriting. So I took this lyric writing course, and that's the book we did. And this object writing exercise just really stood out. It's very very interesting, especially for somebody who doesn't. I never had a very strong background in reading or writing, stuff. So it
Mm-hmm,
was kind of gave me some structure into like, okay, well, I'm not going to spend hours on end trying to write a song. I'll just spend 10 minutes in the morning,
mm-hmm.
it's kind of like brain dumping. You take the prompt and you think about the first thing that comes to mind, and you
Yeah,
start
really.
writing.
Like,
Yeah.
don't delete. You just continue
Yeah,
writing. It's
you just
very
continue. It
nice.
doesn't have
Yeah.
to be perfect grammar. It doesn't have to be, perfect punctuation. You just write and let everything out. So, yeah, I really liked it, and I've stuck with it for, I go through phases. I'll go through like a few months where I do it every morning, and then I'll get some inspiration from there and write a few songs or compose music, and then I'll take a break from it, and then I'll do it again for like an extended period of time, take a break from it, and so on and so forth. I don't do it religiously every day, like I used to, but I do go through months, and I think that's
Hmm.
a healthy way of doing it as well, because I think, especially when you have a lot of other things going
Yeah.
on, you can get burnt out quite easily. Um, so like object writing is a great exercise, and the other thing that I would highly suggest to people is just journal. Like if you don't
Just
want to do a not yeah, if you don't want to do a 10-minute object writing, just like spend like set a timer to like 15-20 minutes if you want, and just like write. There's a thing called morning pages, an exercise called morning pages, where you basically just do a brain dump. So whatever you're feeling, whatever comes to mind, whatever's on your mind, you just write 3 pages, and when the 3 pages are up, that's when you stop. But
but
you
morning pages. Is it something like diary or no?
It
Or
can
it's
it
more
can
like
be a diary, because I mean, at the end of the day, if you're looking for inspiration for lyrics, like for me, a lot of the inspiration comes from personal experiences, things that I can like connect to emotionally. So I think like by writing, even if it's like in a diary form, you
Mhm.
still get like bits and pieces, maybe phrases that come to mind, maybe other emotions that come from what you're writing that you can actually take from, and maybe even from your journal you can take words or like phrases that you can later on object write on, use
So
to.
in terms of inspiration, it's not something that you have to really push. It's something that is there in you, and you're just using it based on the daily exercises you
Depends,
do.
I
Then
think depends, yeah. I think you need to it is a muscle, like you like I go through like the reason why I go through back to object writing after a break is because you do get a bit rusty. Like if you haven't been writing on a daily basis, you need that kind of jump start. You need to kind of get the wheels turning again. So I think like by writing you do get inspiration, but sometimes you do have to push. Like I'm doing a project now for a new kind of community called Noisy Brain, and what they're doing is they're taking writings from people who have mental health issues, are struggling, and they write poems, and you take the poem and you write music or lyrics based on what their experience. So in that case, you kind of have to put yourself, you have to push a bit harder, because it's not your own personal experience. It's kind of like putting yourself in somebody else's shoes and trying to get inspiration from somebody else. I had a talk with one of the CEOs a couple of weeks ago, and they were telling me more about the inspiration behind it. And it's more like starting to get musicians involved, where people with mental health issues can connect,
yeah,
and they've obviously put their heart and soul into their own writings and poems that they're doing. So hearing that kind of in a music form helps them kind of get an extra form of
this is really
expression.
an awesome idea.
And that's,
Seriously.
yeah, I really like, they got in touch with me. I think they found me on there's a platform called The Dots, which is for creatives. It's something that you might be interested in checking out as well. And they just reached out, said we've got this project, and it sounded interesting to me. So I was like, yeah, definitely, let's I wanted to find out more, so we had a chat and they told me more about it, and it was really good. Yeah, really interesting. And
Yeah.
they're open to a lot of different genres. It's not just they're not just looking for like acoustic music, or they're open to everything, as long as it stays true to what they're
Yeah.
the writing of the person who submitted. Yeah.
Is there something new that you would like to learn?
There's always something new that I'd like to learn. um, I mean, for me at the moment, it's like I'm slowly getting obsessed again about vocals. I think like vocals is something that I would like to get a lot better at, and kind of build a routine about, through practicing and learning more about the vocal cords and all that stuff. So I think that's kind of at this time, November 2020, if if we put a date to it,
Yeah.
is where they kind of what I'm focusing on. I mean, I'm always interested, I'm one of those people that I constantly come up with ideas which either are futile or, could be something interesting. So like I like to look into, I like to read about coding and,
Oh my
stuff
God.
which is non-music related.
Yeah.
So it's yeah, I mean, if I give one thing that I want to learn and get better at is definitely vocals, like singing.
Cool. Are you like going to work with the vocal teacher, or did you think about it?
Yeah, so I used to take vocal lessons from an amazing teacher called Jo Thompson. She's based in London, and some big names, and just the amount of students she has is, testament to how good she is. And so like one thing that I noticed and stuff that I learned from her, not only for vocals but like in general from music, is just kind of understanding that it's a performance and it's not just like a technical thing. So like she talks a lot about emotion and understanding the lyrics and understanding your posture. And so I used to take I did lessons with her for maybe a year and a half before leaving London. And she gave me she even gave me exercise to do while I was in the military, like breathing exercise you can practice on. So yeah, I've definitely done lessons. I would like to get back to them when I'm back in London.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think you need to take lessons at least for a short amount of period till you build the basics, so you can kind of like continue practicing on your own.
Yeah, vocal lessons are cool, especially if it's a classical singing teacher, because they really help you to keep your throat in the good position, to learn where the sound should resonate, in
Mhm.
which position, in which notes, and your posture, of course. And yeah, today when we hear everything on the radio, it's mostly and things
It's
like that.
very
So
breathy, yeah. And also, I
yeah,
mean, we need to
it's
be
not really
careful.
healthy. Yeah.
We need to be careful as well with how we like. That's another thing that I've realized. Like, a lot of these music, like popular music, mostly, a lot of it is processed in a way, like in the mixing phase,
Yeah.
where it sounds,
Way it sounds. Yeah.
and I think when you're practicing on your own and you're trying to replicate that sound in your head, it doesn't usually come out. So I think like if anybody getting into singing, they need to be cautious of not discouraged because they don't sound like
Yeah.
X, Y, and Z artists. It's
Tell me about your routine, please. Uh,
what type
your,
of routine, practicing or?
more like your perfect day. Like, what would you do tomorrow morning? You wake up. What will you do?
So ideally, if I manage to go to bed early, because there have been a few days where I've stayed up late doing music or with work. Ideally, like go to bed early, wake up early, like maybe around 6:30. I've got a morning.
6:30.
Ideally, like that's what I always aim for. Sometimes it's 6:30, sometimes it's 7, somewhere in between 6 and 7. But
But it's
um,
early time. I love it already. I love being up early.
yeah, I used to, well, before I left for the military, I used to go to bed at 9 and wake up at 4 because I would have to leave for work. I was doing a non-music job 3 times a week, and I had to leave my house at 6. So I thought, well, and when I came back from work, I was super tired to do anything music. So I thought, well, okay, if I get up early, I get 2 hours of practicing something on the guitar before I have to leave for work. So that's when I first got into like kind of waking up early and creating a morning routine. So I'll wake up early and then I've got a morning routine of where journaling, do some writing. If I'm object writing during that time period, I'll do my object writing exercises. And then one thing I'm trying to do is like early in the morning, not to open a laptop, not to check my phone, just they say it's good for like the first couple of hours when after you've woken up to kind of just do other stuff, either do your reading, writing, stuff like that, where you're kind of not um, filling your brain with endorphins from like social media or like YouTube videos.
Mm.
And then I'll usually just have like this week I'm working on a new track that I want to release before the end of this year. So I'll work on stuff or musical stuff. I'm also teaching,
What's the
so
name of the track?
Kiss Until the Sunrise.
Let's go sit by the seaside, dip our feet in water and kiss until the sunrise. Kiss until the sunrise.
Kiss
It's
Until-
it's very different to what I've released so far. I'm trying to like embrace my pop side and try out something new. So I'm working on that song, and so yeah, like it'll just be I'll have my morning routine, and then the day before I'll set what the stuff that I want to get done. Usually music stuff. I also teach guitar, so some days I have guitar lessons, so I'll have dedicated slots for that as well. And yeah, pretty much, yeah, just stay creative. I mean, especially with COVID now, we're indoors, everything's online, so it's just kind of trying to stay creative and do stuff like that. But yeah, it's the routine is I like to think of it as adjustable depending on if I stay up late, then everything kind of gets shift um
And
for
then you're,
later. But
oh, I'm screwed. I didn't do that. So
well,
like,
that's how I used to be. Like if I woke up late, I would be like, oh, my whole day's gone. But the thing is, it's not gone. You just like have to
yeah.
think, okay, well, I'll try and go to bed early and squeeze as much stuff as I can for the hours that I've got left.
Do you still do any non-music related I don't know, jobs, 9 to 5, something that
At the moment, no. Like I'm teaching mostly, and I've had some mixing jobs, which has been good, for these past few months. Before I left for the military, so I would say from like 2017 till 2019, because I was living in London. London's a difficult city to live, especially as a musician. So I was teaching. I mean, teaching is I consider part of music, so it's not very non-musical. It's a non-creative, I think. It's more like passing on information. But I used to do some admin work for other companies. Like I had a mate who worked for um, what was it, construction company, and I was doing what they call document, basically just admin stuff for them.
Mm.
I did like some weekend customer service jobs on weekends, like little jobs here and there that just supported my music, and I could actually do the other stuff that I wanted to do. It's an interesting time for music, with everything, like even before COVID. Like when you write music and you release music, it's not necessarily, the amount of time and effort and money even you put into it, you're not necessarily going to get the return.
of
Like
course.
people don't buy music. They're more like they're used to paying €10, 10 quid for Spotify, Apple Music, and what that, and have everything at the, in their hands. So I think, we have to find alternative ways to, if you want to make a living from money, you need to find alternative ways to doing it. And whether it's touring, whether it's collaboration. I know a lot of people that do syncing jobs, so they'll write music for TV and
Oh,
commercials.
right.
So yeah, I mean, if you can get your foot through the door with that, then I think, you can make some decent money and a decent living from your music, actually. So, but yeah, like for me, I like the creative side. So in order to do the creative side, sometimes you need to do jobs that are music related.
So my show is called my Skype video.
Your show, man. Yes.
My show is called Amplify, and I created it for the reason that in 2020 the whole industry with talents was in kind of a not certain on not uncertain level. And I just wanted to give a bit of a shout out to people that I know that are around me and to kind of amplify them. I would like you to nominate somebody who you know around you who you would like to support, so I could go to that person and ask him, her, for them for an interview.
I could
So
give
they
you a
could.
whole list of people if you want.
You could choose only one.
I can only choose one. Oh man, I have a ton of people in my head right now, but if I was gonna choose one person to nominate for you to go check out, it would have to be oh, this is gonna be difficult. I would say there's this so my cousin's, I guess, fiance now. She is she's an actress in London, but she's also, you know, as the industry has changed, I think she's also kind of gotten into writing a lot, and she's been doing a lot of screenwriting, and she actually released recently one of her own short films that she wrote. I'm not sure if she directed it, but she wrote it, called The Outsiders, and it's out available now for people to check out as well and watch. So I think she would be definitely an interesting person to talk to about creativity and even writing, from not just you know, obviously we were talking about lyric writing and music and all that stuff, but she has a she can give you an insight into writing for film. She's got a very interesting side to talking about our energies and how we are as people, and I think it kind of goes into her film, you know, screenwriting as well. So I think I'll nominate Grace. Her name is Grace Parry, and
Grace Perry. Okay,
definitely
I'm
worth
gonna
checking
reach
out.
out to her, and who knows, maybe next time I'm gonna have an interview with her. It's very exciting. It's
Yeah.
a very
And if you need
nice.
more people, I can tell you after
Of
the.
course, I know. I
I'll
know.
give you a list.
You can fax it over to me.
I will do. I will do.
What about where can we find you?
So, I mean, I guess the sure place to find me would be my website. It's www.billycrabbe.com. Very simple, easy to remember. I've got everything there from my music, from projects I worked on. If people are interested in any of the services that I provide, they can go check out what I can do and what I've done. Then I'm like everybody else. I'm on all the social media platforms, Instagram, Twitter. Twitter I don't use that much, but I'm on there if anybody is on there. And I'm gonna be doing a lot of, well, not a lot of. I'm gonna start trying to do the Twitch stream platforms. So I've got a Twitch page and YouTube. I mean, YouTube is where I release most of my content, whether it's a cover video or music. So
And Billy Crabbe on Spotify.
and Billy Crabbe, yeah, like Crabbe spelled Crabb. If you're a Harry Potter fan, it was the name of one of the bad guys, but I'm quite nice, as you can tell.
Yeah. Okay, Billy. Thanks a lot for
Awesome.
here.
No, thank you. Thank you for reaching out and asking me to do this.
Yeah, I really love this hour with you. It's I didn't really notice how we are 59 minutes already talking. It's very nice.
When you're having fun, man. When you're
Yeah.
having fun.
You're having fun. So what I'm gonna do is probably go back tomorrow morning to your object writing page. On
Awesome. Yes.
Facebook
I
and
love the
subscribe.
participation, man. I'm gonna try and see if we can get more people involved. I mean, I think it's really nice that you're posting the pictures every day of
I
having
mean, I'm
done the.
enjoying it really. I don't need to post, especially text by text what I wrote. I
Mhm.
can just make a picture and just say that I am here. I am here to participate in the community because
And I mean,
the
at the end of the
created.
day, yeah, at the end of the day, that's what that's really what I wanted to achieve with this community, was kind of like give some inspiration and give some motive for people to actually do the object writing. Anybody who's interested in doing them, and the easiest way I can help people is just giving them the prompt, so they don't have to be looking around for what to write about. Just it's there and you can do whatever you want with it.
Yeah. All right. Thanks a lot, Billy, and I
Awesome,
wish you a
Eric.
good rest of
It was
the
great
day.
talking to you. You too. Take care.
I don't know why you had to bring this up again. I thought we made amends. Troubled minds and troubled souls are for those who have no faith. So let your weary heart to rest. Let your weary heart to rest. You think there could be more to me? I'm sorry to upset. Trust is just like water, shake it, it will make a mess. I told you once, I told you twice, I'll tell you once again. You're the one I think about, you're the one I'm sick without. Let's talk under the moonlight, listen to the radio as we cruise around at night. Let's go sit by the seaside, dip our feet in water and kiss until the sunrise. Kiss until the sunrise. Kiss until the sunrise. Truth be told, I have been in your shoes before. I know it isn't easy, and I know it's not your fault. But red and green don't mix too well, the colors made for fools. So wipe those tears right off your face. Wipe those tears right off your face. And come on, sit down next to me and tell me what I've done. Come rain or high water, I'd never do you wrong. Cause I told you once, I told you twice, I'll tell you till I'm dead.